Hey, Wemberg World Entertainment, and here we are at episode 9 of Strange New Worlds. One episode left, thank God. What's this episode? Well, I would love to just sit in the writer's room when they're writing these things, because I think it's just a conversation of what can we rip off today, because that's exactly what this episode is. It's a rip-off of the movie Enemy Mine, if you've ever seen that with Dennis Quaid, where he's stuck on a planet with the species of that the Earth is fighting against, and they have to pretty much team together to get the hell off the planet. That's exactly what this episode is, except we're with who I can remember the name of now because it was all about her. Erica is the name of the helmsperson. She gets stuck on a moon that for some reason has air and life on it, even though it's the moon of a gas giant. And who's she stuck on there with? Yeah, a Gorn. And because of her trauma, which they've been ignoring until now, and now of course she's completely over it, she got stuck there with a Gorn thinking it wants to eat her, but it's immediately helping her, and they end up having to try get off the planet. And who do we get introduced to by the end? Yeah, the Metron. Who are the Metron, for people asking? They were the alien species who first put Kirk against the Gorn in the original episode called Arena. And they get the gayest person ever to show up to play this role. And I mean the gayest. Not just is it a bald dude, but he's clearly gay. You can hear it in the voice. He's got that voice. Hi, girls. He's got one of them voices. But just his mannerisms and everything, it's like, oh boy, you really went all in with this dude. So they pretty much rip off somewhat Arena as well by the end, except that these two never fight. So what is the actual episode? How does it get to be? Well, they're in front of this weird nebula or something, and they're not able to really scan it, so they have to fly a shuttle through it to scan it and drop a probe in it that is basically going to be there to spy, because your one Erica even says that. She goes, oh yeah, we're dropping in a spy probe for Starfleet so we can see who's running about and stuff. So she flies her shuttle. It's a solo mission into the nebula thing, which they said is meant to take an hour. Okay, now keep that in mind. They said this mission will take an hour because Uhura says to her, like, you're gonna be okay on your own for an hour out there? And she's like, yep, flying's my happy place. We watch the shuttle take off from the Enterprise. Not visually, we're seeing it from within the cockpit of the shuttlecraft. Erica goes, I'm closing the blast shields now and leaving shuttle bay. Then we see the shuttle from the main view screen. She just flies around for about, I don't know, a minute, drops the probe, and they're like, well, your mission's done, time to come home. It's like, that's the quickest hour I've ever seen in the history of an hour. Man, that was fast. But on our way back, what happens? A wormhole opens up out of nowhere, and of course she gets pulled into it. Her shuttlecraft crashes on a moon, which is said to be a planet, but it's a moon. But they keep referring to it as a planet, even though Erica even called it a moon that's in front of a gas giant, where she has to find 3 things: food, water, shelter. She has one of those things, shelter, which is the shuttle. She takes apart parts of the shuttle and makes this weird little thing that makes water. That's 2 of the 3. And then she decides to leave the shuttle and go wandering on this rock, barren rock, and she ends up seeing a light. She follows it, gets up, sees this kind of covered thing. She looks in it, there's like artifacts and stuff, and she's like interested, and then she sees a figure coming back, and it's a Gorn, and she hides, and then the Gorn catches her, holds her over a hole. She thinks it's about to kill her, but this weird centipede thing comes up. The Gorn throws Erica away and grabs that, pulls it apart to eat it, and then throws her a bit of it. So she's not sure what happened, and that's where it ends up, where she has to work with this Gorn, and they become friends. She makeshifts, or I should say pretty much MacGyvers, her tricorder to be able to communicate. Apparently the Gorn can understand what she's saying anyway, because they want to understand their enemies better. The Gorn is a pilot. It's also a woman. Yes, but they had to go there. 2 female pilots, as they say. And the only thing she can hook up the tricorder to confirm is yes or no's. And it says either agree or disagree. But she wants to try and get off the planet, obviously, moon. And she wants to make sure the Gorn gets off. But it turns out the Gorn doesn't like being there, but can't exactly leave. It's injured, and it's pretty much going to die anyway. And it turns out that the Gorn don't just destroy their ships if they're damaged. They will kill the wounded and stuff. It's basically a sign of weakness. So Erica's saying to it, like, basically, if you're saved, that's basically a death sentence anyway for you. So the Enterprise, meanwhile, is searching. Obviously, they're trying to scan. They can't get scans through. Uhura is just being a head melt throughout this episode. All she's doing is crying and bitching and moaning, oh, we gotta stay and save Erica. Even though they don't know whether she's alive or dead and all this stuff. But they also have to go and meet the USS Constellation, which is Captain Deckard's ship, which you may remember from the original series. Or is it the Constitution? Did I say Constitution or Constellation? Constitution. The ship that we met with Captain Deckard in Doomsday, if you remember that in the original series. But they're to bring that ship vaccines for a colony of 4,000 people who are dying from a virus or something, and the Enterprise has 4 hours before they're to rendezvous with that ship. So number one is constantly saying, like, look, as much as we want to stay here searching for Erica, even though we don't know whether she's alive or dead, we got to get this vaccine and make this rendezvous. We cannot let this go. And of course, her is kind of calling that out, and number one saying to her, like, look, yeah, her life means a lot to me as well, but there's 4,000 other lives on the line. We can't, ditch that for one person. But they do stick around. Uhura comes up with plans how to try and get a signal to Erica, which is to basically fly a shuttle into the thing with engines powerful enough to get back. But all the simulations fail, and the only simulation she came up with was, of course you've already guessed it, to use the Enterprise. But not to fly the Enterprise through the wormhole, to use it to wedge the wormhole open, because every time they're sending probes and stuff through the wormhole, it's shrinking. Why? Don't know, but for reasons, it shrinks. So that's what they do, and the only reason Pike agrees to it is because he needs they need to obviously go for this rendezvous, but is it feasible to do? Spock says it is, but they need a signal that has to be at least over 60 hertz. This number was at 56. That was as high as Uhura could get it, but she fudges the numbers and runs it up to 61%. So Pike agrees, and they do. They use the Enterprise to wedge the thing open with its shields up. So the first question I had was, if you find her, how do you plan to beam her up? And this is what's starting to really annoy me with modern Trek, is they have no fucking idea how the shields work. Now you can apparently just beam up and down through the bloody shields all the time and go in shuttles, which I'll get to. We end up, a lot of the stuff with the Gorn and Erica are just them kind of figuring out how to get off the planet, blah blah blah, and then out of all of it they stop for Erica to make a makeshift chessboard and have a game of chess with the Gorn, and then the Gorn pulls out a game it has and they play whatever Gorn game they were playing. You're like, you're in a life and death situation here. You've been going out of your way to try and make things to send signals and stuff, and all of a sudden you're playing games. This is weird. By the way, we don't know how much time is passing, because 1 minute they're asleep, the next minute they're not asleep, 1 minute they're over here doing something, then they're over there doing something completely different. So it feels like days are meant to have passed with Erica on this planet. And yet, according to the Enterprise and everything else that's happening, it's been like a couple of hours. And you're like, this is really strange, the way they've structured it. But overall, her plan to get something to see them, even though she has no idea how they would see them, is to ignite the atmosphere of the planet. Now, she has this thing set up from the Gorn. The shuttle, by the way, her shuttle ends up falling down in a crevice. There's earthquakes on this moon and she loses the shuttle. Yeah, this is already after she's made friends and stuff with this Gorn. So she makeshifts this like relay signal thing, but she sets off a flare. Or at least she said it was the flare. Now, the Gorn has a personal shield that it can use around itself, which is stopping it from being killed from these storms from the gas giant that comes down through the planet every now and again because of the orbital direction of this moon. But it also uses it to cover its little home, basically, so the centipede things can't get to them. So when Erica... Now, remember that. This thing is surviving basically hurricanes. You know, these toxic air gas storms that are coming in from a gas giant. The shield can stop that. Erica's running from these things and sets off a flare that sets out a little explosion in the air, and it completely destroys the shield. It brings the shield down and knocks the power out and everything. She's like, I just killed the two of us. It's like, so you're telling me this shield could survive all these storms for however long this Gorn has been here, but one small little bit of fire, and it's done. It's toast. No more shield. Wow. Okay. But that's when Erica comes up with the idea, we'll set the atmosphere of this moon on fire, which somebody should have explained. That would burn all the oxygen off the surface of the fucking planet. But, don't mind that. So they do. They set it up. They fire this missile thing into the air. Burns all the storm out and stuff. The Enterprise sees it and goes, oh, that's Erica. Hey, go get a shuttle and go get her. That's where the shuttle part is able to come in from. Oh, so you can now fly a shuttle out of the shields of the ship. Okay. But they beam down. She beams down with a group of like 4 or 5 other people. Maybe 3, whatever it was. And you could see this coming a mile away. They turn around. They're armed to the teeth. Erica and the Gorn were in parts of the Gorn's escape pod because of the teeth shields. She pushes a part of it over, comes crawling out, and then the Gorn comes crawling out behind her and was going to help her up, and the other away team just blow this thing to hell. They just open fire and kill it. And of course, Erica's like, why would you do that? And then La'an says, beam us up, Enterprise, which is like, okay, how come the Enterprise can beam you up now, but you had to take a shuttle, which you didn't land a shuttle? Fucking weird. But right as start beaming up, Erica, by the way, is losing it now, because she kept seeing this flashlight throughout the episode, and now she's screaming like, what do you want? What is it? Who are you? Tell me. And as they start beaming up, everything freezes. And Erica turns around, and that's when we meet the Metron. And the Metron, how do they cover their asses for why Kirk doesn't know who the Metron are when we meet them in Arena? Well, the Metron says, I'm going to leave you with the memories of being a friend and shit with the Gorn, but you're not going to remember us. You'll never remember that you met us because we don't think you're ready. Maybe one day we'll have to pitch us against the Gorn again. Oh, remember? That's what they were doing there. And then they beam up and her is happy, and Pike tells her, oh, by the way, I knew you fudged the numbers. And that was it. That was the end of the episode. And you're like, wow, that was dog shit. And just another rip-off of something better. So this was Enemy Mine / Arena. And that was episode 9, your penultimate episode of Strange New Worlds. Man, this season has been dog shit. Oh, by the way, I recently saw today that the dude who played the gay doctor in Discovery apparently was super pissed off and angry because they were asked in Discovery Season 1, did they want to do a musical episode? And it never happened. And then he saw it happening in Strange New Worlds, and he said it made him really angry. Poor baby. Just poor baby. Get over it. This is what Star Trek has become. Sweet Jesus. Thank God there's only one episode of this shit left. So with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like, share, subscribe and all that good stuff. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.